Have you ever felt stuck in a job that just didn't feel right? Maybe the work itself was fine, but something about it didn't click with who you are at your core. You're not alone. So many of us spend years, even decades, chasing careers that don't align with our natural strengths or personality. And that's exactly what Do What You Are by Paul D. Teager and Barbara Barron-Teager is here to help with. This book isn't just another career guide. It's about understanding yourself on a deeper level, your personality, your natural preferences, and the unique way you interact with the world, and then using that understanding to find work that not only pays the bills but also feels fulfilling and meaningful. The idea is simple but powerful. When you align your career with your personality, everything just works better. You're more productive, less stressed, and most importantly, happier. I remember when I first came across the concept of using personality type to guide career choices. It felt like a light bulb moment. I'd been stuck in a job that looked good on paper but drained me every day. It wasn't until I started digging into my personality type that I realized why. The job required constant small talk and spontaneous decision-making, while I thrive in structured, independent roles. It wasn't about working harder or trying to fix myself. It was about finding a role that naturally fit who I am. That's the beauty of this book. It's not about forcing yourself to fit into a job or career. It's about finding one that fits you. And the authors use the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI, to help you do just that, if you're not familiar. The MBTI is a framework that categorizes personalities into 16 types based on how you perceive the world and make decisions. Whether you're an extrovert or introvert, someone who loves details or big picture thinking, a planner or a go-with-the-flow type, this book takes those traits and helps you understand how they translate into the workplace. What I love about Do What You Are is how practical it is. The authors don't just tell you what kind of jobs might suit your personality, they explain why. They delve into the strengths and challenges of each personality type, offering insights into what kind of work environments, tasks, and even colleagues might bring out your best self. It's like having a personalized career coach that really gets you. But it's not just about picking the right job. The book also helps you navigate challenges in your current work. For example, maybe your job isn't the perfect fit, but understanding your personality type can help you tweak your approach to make things more manageable. It might mean communicating differently with your boss, adjusting how you tackle tasks, or even shifting your mindset to better handle stress. As I read through this book, I couldn't help but reflect on the times I've struggled in jobs that didn't align with my natural preferences. There was one job in particular where I was constantly drained, even though the workload wasn't overwhelming. Looking back, it's clear that the role required me to be overly detail-oriented, while I'm someone who thrives on creativity and big-picture thinking. Do What You Are helped me understand that it wasn't a failure on my part. It was a mismatch between my personality and the demands of the job. That realization was so freeing. The authors also explore how your personality type can shape your relationships at work. They explain why certain personalities might clash, and how to navigate those differences. This part of the book felt like a guide to workplace harmony, helping me understand why some colleagues' habits drove me crazy, and how to work with them more effectively. What's great about Do What You Are is that it doesn't box you in. Just because a certain career path is a good match for your personality type doesn't mean it's the only option. Instead, the book gives you a starting point, a way to think about your strengths and preferences so you can make more informed choices. It's empowering because it puts the focus back on you, what you need, what you value, and what makes you come alive. So, as we dive into this summary, I encourage you to think about your own personality and how it shapes the way you work. Are you someone who thrives in fast-paced environments, or do you prefer calm and steady routines? Do you recharge by brainstorming with a team, or do you do your best thinking alone? These questions are at the heart of Do What You Are, and the answers can lead you to a career that feels like home. If this sounds like a journey you're interested in, don't forget to like this video for more thought-provoking book summaries. And let me know in the comments, have you ever had a job that felt completely wrong for you, or one that felt like the perfect fit? I'd love to hear your experiences and reflections. Now let's get started with Do What You Are and discover how understanding your personality can transform the way you work and live. From the very beginning, Do What You Are feels like a conversation with a wise friend who understands how overwhelming career choices can be. It doesn't just dive into finding a job you're good at, it asks a much deeper question: what kind of work will let you be yourself? This book is built around the idea that aligning your career with your personality is the key to long-term satisfaction and success. One of the first things that stood out to me was how the authors emphasize the importance of understanding your personality type. They use the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator (MBTI) as the foundation, explaining how our preferences for things like communication, decision-making, and structure influence not just how we work, but also where we thrive. For example, are you someone who feels energized by collaboration? Or do you do your best thinking in solitude? Do you prefer a predictable routine or a more flexible approach? These aren't just random quirks, they're essential clues to what kind of work will truly fulfill you. Reading this made me think about a friend of mine who struggled for years in a sales role. She's incredibly intelligent and organized, but the constant need to network and persuade clients left her drained. It wasn't until she transitioned into a project management role, where she could focus on planning and strategy, that she started to thrive. It's exactly what this book talks about. When your personality is in sync with your work, everything feels more natural and rewarding. The authors take a refreshing approach to career guidance. Instead of offering one-size-fits-all advice, they acknowledge that what works for one person might be completely wrong for another. This idea resonated deeply with me. So often we're told to follow generic paths to success, but this book says, wait, let's figure out who you are first. That shift in perspective feels empowering, especially in a world that often tries to mold us into roles that don't fit. Another thing I loved about this section is how it acknowledges the emotional side of career decisions. The authors talk about how scary it can be to leave a stable but unsatisfying job, or to pursue something that feels risky. They don't dismiss those fears. They validate them while showing how understanding your personality can help you make more confident choices. It's a comforting reminder that change doesn't have to be reckless. It can be intentional and aligned with who you are. The book also challenges some common myths about work. For instance, it pushes back against the idea that we should fix our weaknesses to succeed. Instead, it encourages us to focus on our natural strengths and find roles where those strengths can shine. This approach felt like a breath of fresh air. I've spent so much time trying to improve at things I'm not naturally good at, only to feel frustrated and inadequate. This book made me realize that it's okay to lean into what comes easily. It's not laziness, it's alignment. One of the most practical parts of this section is how it explains the connection between personality type and career satisfaction. The authors break down the 4 main dimensions of personality: introversion against extroversion, sensing against intuition, thinking against feeling, and judging against perceiving, and show how these traits influence the kind of work environments, tasks, and colleagues we thrive with. It's not just about finding a job you're good at, it's about finding one that feels good to you. For example, if you're someone who loves big picture thinking and brainstorming, a role that requires meticulous attention to detail might feel stifling. On the other hand, if you're someone who enjoys structure and routine, a job with constant surprises might feel overwhelming. These insights might sound obvious, but seeing them laid out so clearly made me realize how often we ignore these preferences in favor of what's practical or prestigious. What I also appreciated is how the book makes space for reflection. It's not just about identifying your personality type, it's about understanding how that type has shaped your experiences, both good and bad. The authors encourage readers to think about moments when they felt truly engaged and energized at work, as well as times when they felt drained or out of place. These reflections serve as a roadmap, helping you recognize patterns that can guide your career choices. As I read through this section, I couldn't help but think about my own career journey. I've had roles where I felt completely out of sync, and at the time, I thought the problem was me. But looking back, I can see how those jobs clashed with my personality. It's not that I was incapable, it's that I wasn't in the right environment. This book feels like a gift because it offers the tools to avoid those mismatches in the future. One of the final points in this section is the idea that career satisfaction isn't just about what you do, it's also about how you do it. The authors highlight the importance of finding work that aligns with your values, whether that's creativity, independence, collaboration, or making a difference. It's a reminder that the right job doesn't just pay the bills, it nourishes your soul. As Do What You Are progresses, it digs even deeper into how understanding your personality type can not only guide your career choices, but also improve how you navigate the work you're already doing. This section focuses on the 16 distinct personality types from the Myers-Briggs framework, breaking them down in a way that's incredibly practical and, honestly, kind of eye-opening. What struck me most here is how the authors show that no matter what your personality type is, there's a place where you can thrive. They frame personality traits not as limitations, but as strengths when applied in the right environment. For instance, someone who's naturally detail-oriented might struggle in a chaotic, fast-paced setting, but they could excel in roles that require precision and structure. It's all about finding that match. Each personality type is described with incredible depth and care. The authors not only list potential career paths for each type, but also explain why those careers might feel fulfilling. For example, people with an INTJ, introverted, intuitive, thinking, judging type, are often drawn to roles that allow them to strategize and solve complex problems. Reading this made me think of a friend who works as a systems analyst. He's brilliant at creating long-term plans and thrives when he can work independently. Seeing his type described so accurately in the book was almost eerie. It's like the authors were describing his life. The book also addresses how different types handle stress in the workplace. This was a real aha moment for me because it helped me understand why certain situations have been so draining for me in the past. For instance, as someone who leans toward intuition and perceiving, I get stressed in rigid, overly structured environments. Meanwhile, someone who prefers sensing and judging might feel anxious in situations that lack clear rules or timelines. It's not about one approach being better than the other. It's about knowing what works best for you and advocating for it when you can. What I found especially valuable is how the authors don't just focus on finding a new job. They also offer advice for adapting to your current role. They suggest small adjustments that can make a big difference, like seeking out projects that align with your strengths or communicating your preferences to your manager. This felt so empowering because it's not always realistic to change careers overnight, but there are often ways to make your current situation more manageable. The section on work environments was another highlight for me. The authors emphasize that it's not just the tasks of a job that matter, it's the setting in which you do them. Are you working in a collaborative space or alone? Is the pace slow and steady or fast and unpredictable? These factors can make or break your experience, regardless of how well the job matches your skills. For example, an extroverted type might thrive in a bustling office with constant interaction, while an introvert might prefer a quieter, more focused environment. This part of the book also delves into the relationship between personality and leadership. The authors explore how different types lead and what challenges they might face. For instance, someone with a preference for feeling might excel at building strong team relationships, but struggle with delivering tough feedback. On the flip side, a thinking type might have no problem making objective decisions but could come across as detached or unempathetic. This balance of strengths and challenges felt so relatable because it highlights how leadership isn't about being perfect, it's about playing to your strengths while being mindful of your blind spots. One of the stories in this section really stuck with me. The authors share an example of a woman who worked in finance but always felt drained and uninspired. After discovering her ENFP type, extroverted, intuitive, feeling, perceiving, she realized she was better suited to a creative, people-centered role. She transitioned into marketing and finally felt like she was doing work that aligned with her natural energy and interests. It's a reminder that sometimes, even small shifts, like moving to a different department or taking on new responsibilities, can completely change how you feel about your work. What I appreciated most about this section is how it encourages readers to embrace their individuality. The authors make it clear that there's no right or wrong way to approach work. For example, someone who thrives on logic and analysis isn't better than someone who leads with empathy and intuition. They just bring different strengths to the table. This feels so affirming in a world that often tries to standardize success. Another powerful takeaway from this part of the book is the idea of career flexibility. Just because a certain type aligns with specific careers doesn't mean you're boxed in. The authors encourage readers to think about how they can bring their strengths to a wide range of roles. For instance, someone who loves problem-solving might find fulfillment in engineering, teaching, or even event planning. It's all about how the job allows you to use that skill. As I read through this section, I couldn't help but reflect on my own career journey. I've had roles where I felt completely out of place, and now I can see why. They didn't align with my natural preferences or strengths. But I've also had moments where everything clicked, where I felt energized and engaged, and now I understand how much of that had to do with being in an environment that matched my personality. By the end of this section, I felt like I had a much clearer picture of how to approach career decisions, not just by thinking about what I'm good at, but by considering what makes me feel alive and fulfilled. The authors don't promise easy answers, but they do provide a framework that makes the process feel less overwhelming and more intentional. The final part of Do What You Are ties everything together, offering practical advice on how to use your newfound understanding of your personality type to create a career and life that align with who you truly are. By this point, the book feels less like a guide and more like a pep talk, reassuring you that the answers you've been looking for have been inside you all along. One of the most empowering ideas in this section is that your career doesn't have to be a perfect fit from the start. The authors explain that life is a series of adjustments, and even if your current job isn't ideal, you can still use the insights from this book to make incremental changes. For instance, you might take on projects that better align with your strengths, advocate for a work environment that suits your needs, or start exploring new opportunities in your free time. This approach felt so realistic to me. It's not about making a drastic leap overnight. It's about gradually steering your career in a direction that feels right. The book also tackles the idea of career transitions, which can feel especially daunting if you've spent years in a role that no longer fits. The authors share stories of people who used their personality insights to pivot into new fields, from accountants becoming counselors to teachers transitioning into business roles. What's fascinating is how these shifts weren't random. They were deeply aligned with the individual's natural preferences and values. This reminded me of a friend who worked in corporate finance for a decade before realizing her ENFJ type, extroverted, intuitive, feeling, judging, was better suited to nonprofit work. Now she's thriving in a leadership role at a charitable organization, and she says it feels like she's finally found her purpose. What I found especially insightful is how the authors address the role of values and priorities in career satisfaction. While personality type provides a strong foundation, it's not the whole picture. Your values, things like creativity, security, independence, or making a difference, play a huge role in determining what kind of work feels meaningful. The book encourages readers to reflect on what matters most to them, and to use that as a guide alongside their personality type. For example, someone with an ISTJ type, introverted, sensing, thinking, judging, might thrive in structured, detail-oriented roles, but if they value flexibility, they might struggle in a rigid corporate environment. On the flip side, an ENFP, extroverted, intuitive, feeling, perceiving, might excel in creative, people-focused roles. But if financial stability is a top priority, they might need to find ways to balance their entrepreneurial spirit with a steady income. One of the most practical parts of this section is the step-by-step guide for navigating job searches and interviews. The authors explain how to use your personality type to highlight your strengths and address potential challenges. For instance, if you're an introvert, you might struggle with networking but excel at thoughtful, well-prepared interviews. Knowing this can help you focus on strategies that play to your strengths while finding ways to manage areas of discomfort. The book also dives into how personality types influence workplace relationships, from interactions with colleagues to managing up. The authors offer tips for recognizing and adapting to the styles of others, which can make a huge difference in creating harmony and reducing conflict. One part that really resonated with me was the emphasis on self-compassion. The authors remind readers that no career path is without its bumps, and it's okay to stumble along the way. What matters is learning from those experiences and using them to refine your direction. This message felt so encouraging because it takes the pressure off finding the perfect job and focuses instead on progress and growth. The stories in this section also highlight the idea that success looks different for everyone. One person might find fulfillment in a high-powered executive role, while another might thrive in a quiet, supportive position. There's no one-size-fits-all definition of success, and this book does a beautiful job of celebrating that diversity. What I appreciated most about the ending of Do What You Are is how it brings everything full circle. It's not just about finding a job or making a career change. It's about creating a life that feels aligned with who you are. The authors encourage readers to think about how their personality type influences other areas of their lives, from relationships to hobbies to personal growth. It's a reminder that the insights from this book aren't just for work, they're for understanding yourself on a deeper level. As I closed the book, I found myself reflecting on my own journey. I've had jobs that drained me and roles that energized me, and now I can see the common thread. The closer a job aligns with my personality, the happier and more effective I feel. This book doesn't promise easy answers, but it does provide a roadmap for making thoughtful, intentional choices that bring you closer to the life you want. As we wrap up, Do What You Are, it's clear that this book offers far more than just career advice. It's a guide to understanding yourself on a deeper level. It challenges the common narrative that success is about fitting into a mold and instead offers a liberating perspective. Success is about knowing who you are and aligning your work with your natural strengths and preferences. If there's one thing I took away from this book, it's that finding fulfillment in your career isn't about changing yourself. It's about discovering how to work with your personality rather than against it. What I love most about this book is how empowering it is. We often hear that we have to mold ourselves to fit certain roles, that we should fix our weaknesses or push ourselves to be something we're not. But Do What You Are flips that idea on its head, offering a refreshing approach. It shows us that when we understand our personality types, we can lean into our natural strengths, find roles where we feel energized, and avoid the situations that drain us. It's a subtle but profound shift, one that removes the pressure to fit into someone else's idea of success and instead invites us to define success on our own terms. One of the biggest takeaways for me was the realization that we don't need to force ourselves into careers that don't fit our personality. There's a role out there for everyone, and it's not about making yourself adapt to the job. It's about finding a job that adapts to you. And if you're not in that job yet, the book gives you the tools to identify what might work better for you, whether that's tweaking your current role or making a more significant career change. It's a message of hope and possibility for anyone who's ever felt like they don't belong in their current job or career path. The authors do such a great job of connecting your personality type to your broader values and career goals. They remind us that work isn't just about doing a task. It's about doing something that aligns with what we truly care about. Whether you're someone who thrives on creativity, structure, independence, or helping others, understanding your core values and linking them to your work will not only make your job more satisfying, but can also help you find deeper meaning in what you do every day. Another key idea that really resonated with me is the concept that success looks different for everyone. There's no universal formula or one-size-fits-all definition of success. The path that works for one person might not work for someone else, and that's okay. What matters most is finding the path that feels right for you. This book makes it clear that understanding your personality type can help you find your own definition of success, one that aligns with your personal strengths, values, and goals. As I reflected on these insights, I thought about how often we let external pressures define our success. We compare ourselves to others, follow societal expectations, or chase after titles and achievements that don't actually resonate with who we are. But Do What You Are encourages us to tune into our own needs and desires. It's not about what others think is successful. It's about what makes you feel fulfilled. So, as you think about your own career path, I encourage you to ask yourself, how well does your current work align with who you are? Are you playing to your strengths? Are you in a role that allows you to do what comes naturally to you? If not, what small adjustments could you make to start shifting in the right direction? These are the kinds of questions that can open up new possibilities and help you make more intentional choices in your work and life. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you feel like your career aligns with your personality, or is there a disconnect? What have you learned about yourself through your work? Feel free to drop a comment below. We'll continue exploring ideas that can help us better understand ourselves and create careers and lives that we truly love. Thank you for joining me in this journey through Do What You Are. Remember, career satisfaction is within your reach. It's all about finding that perfect alignment between who you are and what you do. Until next time, keep discovering what makes you unique, and don't be afraid to pursue work that reflects your true self.